News coverage around the country over the past week, and as President Obama and congressional leaders struggle to reach a deal, Washington is looking a lot like Albany during the legislative session. I know it's terrible. A deal looks like it's about to come together, and then it falls apart. Then another deal is floated, and then that one falls apart too. And then a vote is scheduled, and then it's canceled. Sessions stretch into the night, and reporters sit around in the hallways while leaders sit around in closed-door meetings. This is all eerily familiar to our Capitol correspondent friends, and so we have gathered some of them here tonight to provide some perspective on the situation as part of this week's Reporter Roundtable. Joining us is Rick Carlin of the Albany Times-Union, and then next to him is Gannett's John Campbell. And then on the other side of the table, we have our own Nick Reisman. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here.
Good to be here. You're forgetting the part about the cold pizza at 11 o'clock at night.
Which everyone enjoys.
Yes.
Actually, you know what actually happened, if I got this right? The House Majority Whip, Kevin McCarthy, had pizza and lured members into the office with it and then tried to beat them into submission with the pizza. And when I think one member came out and said, "I'm still a no, but I'm a bloody and beaten no." Okay, but we should note that Boehner's tweaked second bill actually finally passed. It was a close one, and it is headed for certain death.
Basically the bare majority, but it's probably not going to be taken up in the Senate, or if it does, it will be voted down. And the president has even vowed to veto the plan anyway. So, I mean, it's almost moot.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about this? Everyone is running around in Washington with their hair on fire, and the rest of us are sort of sitting around here being like, yeah. I mean,
it's kind of tough to, and you see some people in the cable news chat shows now trying to relate this back to the American people and why we should care. And we probably should care about this because there are...
We do care, Nick.
Well, we, the collective we.
Okay.
I care because I'm a nerd about this stuff, but... we should care because this is probably going to affect interest rates on car loans, student loans,
on your credit card,
cards as well. Yeah. I mean, this is there are going to be severe, immediate impacts if the debt ceiling is breached.
And the other impact is with rising credits, that can really put a crimp in the greater economy. We're supposed to be digging our way out of this horrible recession. If the credit is tight for businesses to borrow money, even less hiring, even less expansion, and so forth. To me, that's the real danger, even as much as the consumer side of it, too. So it's a real issue.
And you've seen, Comptroller Tom Napoli sound the alarm about, some fiscal impacts it could have on the state. What we haven't really heard much from is the governor.
Interesting,
A couple times he was asked about it this week, and he didn't really take the bait. He did say that he's confident that something will get resolved, but didn't say who he's siding with, didn't want to put any blame on anybody.
Why did you think that was? I mean, I thought, at first I thought, oh, he doesn't want to choose sides, and he doesn't want to fan the flames of this whole idea that, oh, he's like trying to steal Obama's thunder. And Obama's numbers today tanked. He's at the lowest level ever, as we've mentioned, 40% in Gallup. That's not good. But maybe it's also because he doesn't want everybody to freak out, and he really does believe that there's going to be a deal.
And there's also a limit as to what a governor can do in this instance.
Nothing.
This is right. This is something that Congress has to decide, and then the financial markets will react in whatever way they react. So I saw New York City, John Liu put out sort of a dire warning today about what it would mean for New York City. It seemed like there was a little bit of showboating there because there's not much that people on the state or city level can do.
Andrew Cuomo also, the last couple of years of Andrew Cuomo's political career has been about staying on message.
Yep.
And when he goes off message, you get a moment like, the holding the coat moment when he first ran for governor.
In 2002.
In 2002. So, I think he's trying to desperately stay on message as much as possible. And he doesn't want to veer off that script of the jobs mantra that he's trying to focus on.
Which we're getting to in 1 second. I just want to note also, you guys had something pretty interesting today on your blog about Westchester County. I think it's like the only government in New York that stands to be downgraded by Moody's if, in fact, the debt ceiling deal isn't hit.
Yeah, that was from the Journal News, and that's what they reported. I mean, you've heard Rob Astorino weigh in too, and he's sounded the alarm, and it's. They're very concerned about it down there. They really are, more so than really any county in the state.
Right. I mean, obviously, though, we are making a little bit light of it, and it's Friday, and we're tired, and we've all, and we're a little jaded, probably more than a little jaded, because I know we've all spent our fair share of very late nights in the Capitol. However, it is serious, potentially very serious, and obviously, I don't know if all of the dire predictions are true, but if Social Security checks don't come, that is a serious problem for a lot of people in New York.
Sure.
So. let's not make too much light of it. I do want to move on to the jobs thing. Of course, that is the message this week, and the message can get muddied. We have seen that before when the hydrofracking story stepped on the property tax cap story a few weeks back. This one, very, very methodical, very rolled out. Do you think he got the message across?
Yeah, I mean, this is the one thing about these economic development councils is this goes back to kind of a growing Cuomian, if you will, strategy of the governor trying to get all these bold-faced names into one panel so he can basically bring all these people together, but once there's a plan that's developed, nobody can really criticize it.
It is a smart strategy.
And he's got, some, and very similar people keep showing up on these things. Antonio Perez, who's the CEO of Eastman Kodak, is also a member of the SAGE Commission, the Government Efficiency Commission that he set up. Andrew Rudnick, who you interviewed the other night, he's on the Committee to Save New York, which is this lobby group that Cuomo's tried to keep at arm's length, but has lobbied a lot of money on behalf of Cuomo's fiscal strategy.
Just before we came on the air here, Daily News' Ken Lovett had a pretty smart blog item, I thought, where he looked at, there's actually a committee that is overarching all of the councils. It's starting to get a little bit layered, but nonetheless, they're like the Uber committee that oversees all the councils. Almost $184,000 worth of contributions from the members of that committee to Andrew Cuomo's campaign. Okay, so what does that mean? Is it negative? Is it pay to play? Is it undue influence? Or is it just there's a finite number of people in New York who are titans of industry and movers
he
and
certainly
shakers?
has a well-defined inner circle, and there's various concentric circles within that circle. But I mean, he clearly has people, a certain set of people that are in his orbit. And we are seeing those people over and over again in various roles. And I think that might speak to something. Maybe that's, if we could psychoanalyze the governor, maybe that's something about his personality. He likes to keep everyone...
Paging Dr. Freud. I'm sorry,
close.
John.
The Cuomo administration would be quick to tell you that, these are pro bono positions on all these councils. And who's going to serve in those, but people that are involved in the political process that are donating money. That being said, each of these councils had a few contributors, but to be honest with you, I was a little surprised that there weren't more than on some, especially the regional councils. Not so much the overarching council, but.
What also is worth noting, no state lawmakers on any of these councils. Lots of local elected officials, and I think the governor has defended the criticism that there's not enough diversity by saying, look, we want local people, we want them to make decisions.
No, he doesn't want to turn it into a pork barrel festival, exactly.
Right, instead, no, it's a competition in which the strongest person wins, which could be ugly in the end, or maybe it'll work.
We've done away with the whole member item scenario, so he could easily be criticized for going back to that if he stacked these things with lawmakers.
Right.
But we would say, well, it's just another form of pork barrel.
It'll be really interesting to see how these councils ultimately work and what ultimately comes out. The grants are going to be awarded in December. It's up to $1 billion pool of money that they're going to be competing for. And one thing that the governor has stressed in all of these events that he's held around the state is that this is a bottom-up approach to solving the problem. But everything that this governor has shown in the last 6 months has shown that he is a very hands-on guy. He is a top-down manager. So I would really like to see how a bottom-up approach works in the Cuomo administration.
Well, ostensibly, everything was supposed to be bottom-up, right? I think the real bottom-up approach may be the Medicaid task force, but otherwise, the Mandate Relief Task Force was very much driven by Larry Schwartz, who's now the Secretary of the Governor.
And ultimately, his inner circle is going to have to score these competing proposals. So from that way, it's top-down. It's kind of like the race to the top proposal for education dollars. You have various states competing for grants, and Washington then decides who gets the money. And Cuomo's made it pretty clear during one of the few Q&As that he's done on this that there are going to be losers. Not everyone's going to get a grant out of these 10 councils.
Well, we'll be following it, of course, because it is really important, obviously, economic development and jobs, particularly to upstate, which is our focus. In the meantime, we have run out of time, but I want to thank you guys very much for being with us. Rick, thank you. John and Nick, thanks very much for being here. We'll see you soon.